Hey everybody, thanks for the patience as we were getting set up here. This is Dan Reeser. I lead our growth team at Akala and Kavura, and joined by one of our co-founders, Betty Chen. Thanks for joining us, Betty. I know it's pretty good.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Dan. Hi, everyone. Today I'm actually speaking from Sydney, Australia. Yeah, good to see everyone.
Cool. Well, yeah, thanks everybody for joining. I know there's quite a bit on people's mind. There's a lot of technical launches happening for Akala and Kavura. That's one thing. And then, of course, there's also a lot going on in the industry that we all know and love. So I know there's plenty of questions for people related to the lDOT launch for liquid staking, as well as just maybe general questions you have about Acala and aUSD and things like this. So we'll definitely spend a lot of time today just taking your questions, letting you guys kind of just let us know what's on your mind. We will go through a little bit around lDOT and what's just recently launched, kind of explain how liquid staking works and all of that. And then we'll end with some Q&A. So first, I'm just going to let Betty just kind of give you guys an update on what's going on from her end, and then we can get into more of the set agenda. So go ahead, Betty.
Yeah, sure. So I saw some people already putting their questions in the ask a question box. So like if you, I'm sure everyone's got a lot of different type of questions. You can't pretend nothing's happened, right? There's a lot going on in crypto, not just the Terra sort of incident, but also it has probably a wider impact on the entire crypto industry as well. So if you've got any concerns or any questions or things that you don't understand, just ask in the chat box, see what we can do for you, right? Yeah. So I think first of all, let's address the elephant in the room. In the last, I guess, less than a week actually, there's a lot happened starting from the Terra incident. And I'm sure actually if you're in crypto, you're watching this. And I watched this with very heartened, right? I had two perspectives on this. One is very rational, like looking at the mechanism of the system, and then we can certainly go into a lot more discussion that's in relation to Akala and also aUSD and also other protocols that we are building. But then the other side of the perspective is more to do with like entrepreneurs and founders in the industry, in crypto, how it is not an easy role. So I will also go into a little bit more discussion in that. I'm actually, even though I'm watching from a distance, but you have to say people involved in that ecosystem have put in probably everything that they tried to try to make it work, right? So yeah, let's start with one by one, right? So I see questions coming in now. So I will also address some of the questions as I speak. So feel free to pop the question into the Q&A section. Yeah. So firstly, I guess when the market actually goes up, there are a lot of things people can overlook, I guess, is whether the mechanism actually are tested, and what are the aspects that you can actually improve from the past events, because I'm sure a lot of you in here have gone through markets up and downs, many different cycles, like I personally have. And actually Akala started from a very bearish market. That's the market when no one wanted to touch any new crypto project. That's when Akala started. And I thought it was a blessing, even though it was hard. Like no one wants to see a PowerPoint. No one wants to see a new idea. No one wants to see a new chain. That was 2018 and 19. But that actually forces you to actually, I guess, build something that, because in a bear market, any hype doesn't actually work. Rational people will actually ask for what is the actual first principle behind the product and services that you build, and then whether it's going to be any added value when you contribute that back into whatever ecosystem that you're building. We were building in Polkadot, of course, back in the days. So I think that's one thing to know in a market like this. That's where people start asking questions. So I think from everyone's perspective, this is a time to actually reflect and actually see what we can learn from what happened. And I give you a very concrete example how we did that. So during 2019, there was Black Thursday happen. I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember that the Black Thursday happened maybe in March of that year, where it was also a very dramatic market event where all major tokens actually dropped dramatically. And then that caused huge liquidation on chain, on Ethereum. And that was Maker got into trouble where the liquidation couldn't actually keep up because congestions, and also because all the keepers, like the servers that are not running on the blockchain, actually running off-chain, couldn't actually trigger the liquidation in the right time. So we were watching. So we were building Akala back then. We were watching this happening. Like not from a perspective of, well, they failed and we're going to make it. Not like that at all. Because from a very start until now and into the future, I always see everybody else building something similar. Like let's just say stablecoin or even liquid staking that we will touch on later on. We see all of these folks are companions in our industry, because if you are the only one building the only thing in the industry, you have the big question mark: are you building the right thing? Is that thing actually people want? If there are enough demand, there's supposed to be multiple product and service offerers, right, and protocol developers to innovate and try to meet parts of the market and demand, right? So I look at other similar protocols, regardless of their mechanism. If they're building stablecoin, they're all our companions. We actually reinforce the idea of how important whatever problem that we're trying to solve. At the same time, we learn from each other through the evolution of the protocol. You can see protocols that face many of the ups and downs, whether it's hacks or whether it's attacks externally or whatever way. If they bounce back, if they manage to improve, and then if they manage to evolve from the event, then you can see they actually become stronger. If everyone been through many of those hacks, and also like even Maker, they're much stronger compared to where they were during the Black Thursday, because after that, actually an entire new industry started out of this, trying to solve this incident. Of course, with Ethereum's technical setup, you couldn't actually solve the problem in a fundamental way. So you still need keepers. But after that incident, they come up to be professional keeper operators, right, in the Ethereum world, that try to make it a lot more. I guess the service level is better, and then so they have more, resource to win the gas war when the network is actually congested, because they can't solve those network-related issues, right? So there's a lot of positive things happen after the Black Thursday, and see where Maker is today, right? And then they are solid and strong. So yes, that's one thing I will want to put it into perspective when you look at what happened right now in the industry, also in the terrorist case, right? So they did magically save themselves in the last few ups and downs, right? So you have to give them that to actually try to improve on their mechanism, because the moves that Terra took from their original mechanism, which is mainly just algorithmic, and then they did start to create a sense of collateralization, right? Started with Bitcoin, and then I think they also added Avalanche. Maybe also they had plans for other collaterals as well. And then they even said they're going go into collateralization in a later stage, right? So like innovation doesn't actually go directly to perfect. There's no genius, nothing is perfect. So you have to go through this ups and downs and evolve and also improve. And then you finally get to a point where not only is product market fit, but your innovation actually proven through time. Certainly that proven model may not be exactly the same from where you started from day one, as your white paper specifically say 3 years ago, right? But this is where realistically, if you actually on the ground building stuff, this is what happened. You go through this ups and downs, you evolve and you improve. So so that's from more talking about mechanics. And then from Akala perspective, I mentioned that we learned quite a bit from other protocols and kind of surviving through different market conditions. For those who you don't know, and then maybe I'll just give a little bit of context. So the aUSD stablecoin that we built is probably closer to Maker's model, but we are a multi-chain native stablecoin using over-collateralization. So that's roughly the model. There's a lot of like details that we are different and also improved upon. As I mentioned, Black Thursday. So we actually have on-chain keepers, and our Oracle, doesn't require to bid in a gas war. Our Oracle transaction is like quality of service for the internet service. So it's always prioritized to provide the best price feed. So there's a lot of like details that are very different. But if you look at just categorically, aUSD is in the camp of, I guess, a multi-chain maker. If you really like to have some comparison there. But there's a lot of innovation that we've done. For example, we in a Polkadot ecosystem, you are able to make trustless cross-chain transactions. So aUSD is have the ability of that, and we're also linking up Akala and Karura. So aUSD will be a single fungible stablecoin across Polkadot and Karura to link up the whole economy. So we can go into a bit more detail on the mechanisms, obviously, if people are interested, and then we can talk a lot more about that, because there are different approaches, right? Even within the Polkadot ecosystem, there are others building stablecoin as well, and everyone takes a different approach, risk sort of profile. We were the first team building in Polkadot, but we are also, and you also saw, we are also the first stablecoin as well. There's a reason behind it, because the stablecoin we built, obviously, one purpose is to build a stable medium of exchange, but that's not the full story, I guess, because if you look at Maker, it is more of a credit lever for Ethereum, right? By credit lever, I mean, for example, in a market like this, if you need to pay for certain things, if you need to buy certain things, you don't want to liquidate your ETH, right? You don't want to sell off your DOT or KSM, because the market goes like this. That's the last thing you want to do. So with a credit system, this is like very critical if you are building a real blockchain ecosystem. Is now Polkadot has this network, right? You've got the internet set up. The next thing is actually build proper industry, business, products, and services. With all of those, they are actually economic activities. You actually need a credit system, like a banking system, to actually support the economic growth without compromising whatever the underlying protocol, right? So for Akala, and also similarly, what Maker is doing is we put crypto. For us, we put DOT and also other tokens as the collateral, and then you can extract liquidity out of those crypto assets. So, it's probably particularly relevant right now is you don't actually need to liquidate your assets. You can still hold on to it, which is what you probably want to do, but you can still draw liquidity out of it to do whatever you need to do, pay for stuff or do other things, right? So this is essentially the over-collateralization and credit or lending protocol that aUSD and similarly, Maker is moving in the direction is. So yeah, so that's it. And then we can also go into a bit more detail of like specific use cases that we are particularly interested. But as you can see, as the first layer that we built, it's very important. We actually built something that's very solid, because you can actually see starting now. Right now, we have about 20 chains connected on Karura, with all the parachains now coming live. That took us 10 months, right, since we launched. Mostly because we launched first, we have to wait for everybody else to get up to speed and then connect with XCM. But for Akala, you will see similar pattern, but in a much shorter time frame, because everything is tested, right? Everybody know exactly what to do to connect to each other. So you can see already the Polkadot started to have this multi-chain spider web type of ecosystem. And then to build a credit system for this, you want it to be built on not sand, right? You want it to be built on concrete, so that others can, continue to build on top of it. And that's why, back in the days, we chose the model that we chose, the over-collateralization model. Doesn't mean it didn't evolve, right? You guys have seen in our forum, in our past upgrades, there's a lot of innovation happen, but the main principle is it has to be kind of like solid, and so that it can actually serve a foundation for not just Polkadot, but also you can see us starting to collaborate with a lot of parachains and dApps, and then integrate aUSD into their ecosystem to support them. So there has to be solid foundation for that. But having said that, we also work with other stablecoin and also non-stablecoin dApps. They build on top of Akala, right? It's not to say you have to do the stablecoin this way and it's the only way. I don't believe that at all. Like, there are protocols built on top of Akala. They have a very different risk profile, right? They are a bit more risky, but they use aUSD maybe as collateral or some other way. They're more risky, but they're also optimized for other things that people want, maybe like yield or other things. And this is valid as long as there's demand. So you have to look at things probably in a bit of distance to see how things are kind of like match up with each other. So at least we try to be as solid as possible as the base layer, infrastructure layer for this credit system at Akala. And then there are other protocols that, maybe they're also stablecoin, but they use different mechanism and then optimize for different needs in the market. So yeah, I guess that's from the mechanics side of the things. Then you want to say something?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna share my screen really quick. I think this might help some of these questions. So some people have been asking, like, so how does aUSD maintain its peg? What's the difference between aUSD and other stablecoins? So this, I think, is a pretty good categorization of the different types of stablecoins, and maybe just going, I think, back to the basics might help really quickly. So fiat-backed stablecoins like USDC and Tether, this is backed by an actual US dollar in a bank account. So for every USDT or every USDC, they're supposed to have one US dollar in a bank account actually backing that USDC or USDT. The second category here, crypto-backed. So this is where there's actual crypto assets as collateral that are backing the issuance of the stablecoin. And almost always this is an over-collateralization. So I think the most important word, the most important aspect of any stablecoin to look at right now, as all this stuff is going on in the market, is the fact that, is the stablecoin over-collateralized, or is it collateralized at all by a real asset, or is it purely algorithmic and backed by some sort of mechanism? So algorithmic stablecoins are by far the most experimental of the three categories on the screen here. And I know different algorithmic stablecoins have used different mechanisms. UST from Terra has its own mechanism that some people may know about, but there's this minting and burning, there's this arbitraging with Luna, but at the end of the day, the main difference is that DAI and aUSD and Tether and USDC are all backed by something. There's collateral there. So in aUSD's case, this is what Betty was just kind of walking you through, is when you mint aUSD, I'll actually show you on the slide here what it actually looks like in our UI. So when you're going to mint aUSD, you'll go here, mint aUSD, and the first thing it asks you is like, you want to open up a vault, is what it's called. And you go here and you choose the collateral. So when it says collateral, that means I want to back my aUSD with the value of this DOT that I'm putting into this vault. So I'm agreeing with the Acala protocol itself and saying, hey, here's my DOT. I'm going to mint aUSD with that DOT backing my aUSD. And what you have to do right here, there's these collateral minimums. So in this case, it's 200% for DOT. So what that means is you have to have 2 times as much DOT in this vault backing the amount of aUSD that you issue yourself. So let's say it's $100 of DOT that you have. You can mint at most $50 worth of aUSD. And what this allows is safety and stability of that loan that the Acala protocol has issued to the user. So the reason for that is as DOT price fluctuates, as the market changes, seen the last few days, this helps to hedge for that risk of the actual collateral behind aUSD fluctuating. And then what this section here means, this liquidation ratio, this means that if you reach the point where your collateral is only worth 1.6 times the amount of aUSD you have, your position will automatically be sold off and your vault will be closed. So this is one of the ways that the aUSD peg is maintained, is by liquidations on positions that are unsafe for the protocol. The aUSD protocol itself does not allow the collateral to become at risk with the amount of aUSD that's in the market. That's just how it's built. And then when someone does get liquidated, then there's a 15% kind of penalty, you can think of it as, for, I guess, the risk that was taken by that individual user. So what this incentivizes people to do is maintain kind of a healthy position in their vault that they opened up using aUSD. So in this case, you can see current DOT price is 1869. Liquidation price is 14.95. So this means if the collateral did drop to the point of 14.95, that position would be closed. The DOT would be sold off, and it would basically get the protocol back to a healthy level, and then the collateral would be returned minus the liquidation fee of 15%. Same here. This is another view when you have the position opened. I think one thing that's also relevant to this discussion is, okay, let's say DOT did fluctuate down and your position gets really close to becoming risky. Let's say even this to me is a little bit risky, like 228 versus 160. So if DOT were to fall to 1306, which I mean, as of today it has. So in this case, what would you do? You could either pay back the loan, so you could pay back the 51 aUSD that you basically owe back to the Acala protocol, or you could deposit more DOT. You could deposit more collateral to help increase that ratio, that collateralization ratio that you have versus the aUSD loan that you took out from the protocol. So this is what we mean by aUSD is backed by something real assets, real crypto assets. But in this case, another key word is that aUSD is backed by decentralized assets. So aUSD is a decentralized stablecoin. So going back to this slide, fiat-backed stablecoins are just inherently not decentralized. They're backed by dollars and fiat that were issued by governments, whereas crypto-backed stablecoins are issued backed by crypto-native assets like Bitcoin, like DOT, in the future, maybe like ETH, when we have ETH bridged over, in other parachain assets down the road. But this is kind of like the basic overview of how aUSD works, and hopefully that helps people understand a little bit more.
Yeah, and what I would add is this mechanism is mostly optimizing for risk, minimizing risk. So especially in a downturn, this mechanism actually keeps the protocol solvent. Mm-hmm. And there are also protocols optimized for market upturn as well. But particular mechanism that aUSD uses is when crypto assets coming downhill, it actually liquidates before you become unsolvent. Unsolvent just means you don't have enough collateral to back up each aUSD. So essentially, this mechanism ensures that every aUSD is always backed by exactly the same or more collaterals behind the scene. Because before you hit, say, 120% collateral ratio or liquidation ratio, you get liquidated. Liquidated means you actually, try to get aUSD and pay back the outstanding loan, and that keeps the protocol solvent. So, and it also encourages every vault owners to manage their vault, diligently to avoid liquidation. So those of you who run vaults these days, you just have to be extra careful because I think we can say this is the black swan event in a bearish market that we have been having. And with a black swan event that happened, it could have unexpected outcomes. So you don't know where things are going. So you got to be extra vigilant in terms of opening a vault, managing the vault, and also put extra cushion, like having extra high collateral ratio. So just to be safe to get through the period, right? So yeah.
I guess so. This is we're just kind of going with the flow here. I think the everything going on in the market, I think it made sense to start with this as a topic, and then hopefully this explanation has helped some people. We can keep going through some of these questions to see if there's anything still relevant.
Folks asking about our announcement last week or 2 weeks ago with Anchor, what was going on there. So maybe I'll just explain what the nature of that integration is. And then, of course, as I said, there's a black swan event, so we have to watch and see what will happen. So Anchor, at its core, is a money market, right? I know, there's the savings 20% yield on top of it. It makes it look like a savings account, but the underlying mechanism, if you look into it, is just a money market. Essentially, money market means some people deposit assets, some people borrow those assets, and the borrower will actually pay some interest rate. And then the depositor will actually receive some of those interest rates, just like a facilitator, the protocol. So that's essentially what Anchor is. And then Anchor, I think, has been a long time looking for very high quality collaterals, right? They used to only have Luna because they are kind of like built on that one chain. But I think since maybe a year, or I can't remember how long ago, they added ETH, right? So that's the ST ETH provided by lDOT. And then they've added that onto their collaterals. And then I think the reason they like those type of assets, because in the Anchor protocol, they actually take out the staking yield out of those liquid staking assets, right? So ST ETH is the staking derivative for ETH2. And then I think Anchor protocol actually takes the yield out of it and then subsidize the savings part of it. Of course, I think for ETH, I don't know how much you get like right now, but it's like under 10% or something like that. And then Luna is also probably roughly 10 or maybe less. I didn't keep track exactly what is it now. And then, that's certainly a bit distance away from the actual 20% the protocol offer, and then the extra is offered by the reserve that's subsidized by their foundation. So that's why a high quality, high yield staking asset is very appealing to them. So then, this is where we have a demand from folks who needed this. So it started off LKSM and lDOT, at least from their assessment, is a very appealing staking assets because one, it's very good quality. For one, DOT and also KSM staking is high quality staking protocol. And then second, what we offer is non-custodial, trustless staking asset. And then third, the mechanism we use is very easily integratable. So we don't have rebates, right? So you don't keep getting new tokens. We actually build the whole yield into lDOT and LKSM. So it's essentially you can expose people to DeFi without the complexity. If you just hold lDOT, it automatically accrues the staking yield into that one token. You don't, and then and there's other things I can talk about later, but it's a very easily integratable asset as well. And then from past history, so we've been running LKSM for the last 10 months, and then the operation has been smooth, and then the yield that we are getting has been consistently above the average yield you get if you just stake directly to Kusama. Mostly because if you directly stake on Kusama, not everyone is an expert picking the right validator and also manage the validator changes over time, and validator change the commission rate in between errors as well. So but for what the LKSM side, and which will be similar to lDOT side, is there's a criteria that we fall under, constantly rotating the validators, and we're also getting now institution grade validators like Coinbase Cloud, as well as BlockDemon. So they not only offer as competitive rate as everybody else, which they don't normally offer because of the quality of service they offer, but they also added on top slash coverage. So for the assets that validated on their validator, if there's anything happen, they actually covered that, right? So everything add up together, I guess. Then it kind of like puts the lDOT and LKSM in a probably in institution fit category as an asset, as a validate, as a staking product, and also with very competitive, very good rates. Yield for people, and that's also why it's, I guess, appealing for other protocols to integrate, but also appealing for like fintech. So Current.com is currently like integrating that product into their consumer app, mostly for those reasons, right? So we are kind of like slowly but kind of surely, steadily working our way through to kind of meet the demands on different markets and growing that product specifically. But the main reason we built liquid staking is to have a very quality collateral for the stablecoin. So for aUSD, obviously you can use DOT, right? If you don't have other choice, but then you run into the issue of you're actually foregoing your 14% staking yield if you are staking the naked DOT to mint aUSD, to borrow, right? So the lDOT is built so that we don't need to have this conflict or this opportunity cost war between staking versus using it for liquidity, drawing liquidity out, or participate in any of the programs available in a multi-chain ecosystem. Because lDOT, once it's created, it's free to be integrated by any dApps, built on top of Akala, and also built on any parachains connects to Akala, right? So then for the participants of liquid staking lDOT, then you have the opportunity, you can park your assets in lDOT and watch and see what is appealing, then you can participate there, right? So they kind of get rid of this competition between, well, I have to stake, or I have to stake, and then I can't do DeFi, right? This also actually adds security to Polkadot staking as well, because you can imagine in crazy times in other ecosystem, you will get 1,000% APY with whatever potentially shit coins dropping at your wallet, and it's very tempted, right? Like most people are normal human beings, and they're driven by this, and then you will see huge amount of DOT that kind of like shifted to 1,000% APY program. What then? Then it's essentially a bank run for proof of stake network. You people are withdrawing from staking and then putting in this 1,000% program. That's the case that we don't want to see, right? So when we built like the lowest level protocol, like the infrastructure, we want a way so that the proof of stake validation is protected, right? So every lDOT is actually putting the DOT trustlessly to staking on the Polkadot protocol to provide security. And then if you want to do any crazy things, well, just integrate with lDOT and you do whatever crazy things you want. And that wouldn't actually impact the security, right? And so that was the reason why we built lDOT, so that we can support aUSD liquidity, but also as a good infrastructure for everybody else to build on top without kind of like compromising the security of Polkadot. So yeah.
Cool. So yeah, I guess now everyone has a background on the original thought process behind lDOT.
And maybe we also address maybe the risk of lDOT.
Yeah, let's go back to the kind of the basics, and then we can go into that in a second. So we've already talked about aUSD. This is the product that kind of the four co-founders of Acala started building with in the beginning. And then, as Betty explained, we built this parachain around aUSD. So lDOT, like Betty just said, was built to unlock liquidity for a healthy collateral to mint aUSD. You may also be aware of the Acala DEX, Acala swap. The DEX of Acala was actually built to facilitate liquidations to maintain the health of the stablecoin. The Acala swap DEX is not trying to be the best DEX in the world. The DEX is trying to maintain the best stablecoin possible. So the DEX and the lDOT product are there to serve aUSD. And then I'm sure people are aware of staking. At its most basic level, people before liquid staking with Polkadot, for example, people in a proof of stake network stake their dots with different validators. And these validators' job is to maintain the security and the kind of transactional accuracy of the network. And the more assets that are staked with these validators, the harder it is to attack the overall network. So this is one reason why Acala built on Polkadot to begin with, because we didn't have to worry about building up our own very secure set of validators. By winning the parachain slot auction, we just got to plug into Polkadot's existing validator set. So the big validator set of Polkadot with billions of dollars of value behind it allowed us to just get the backing of those validators. So one of the problems that users have with staking DOT is that when you stake your DOT is stuck there doing nothing, and it takes 28 days to unstake that from Polkadot. So that's one pretty big kind of UX or user experience mishap that comes with proof of stake. So what liquid staking allows us to do is to stake that DOT, but then get a liquid version of that. And I'll give a quick example that I heard once before that kind of resonated with me, and maybe it'll resonate with some of you guys. So a coat check, I don't know, I don't think this is just a US thing. I think this is a global thing, but with a coat check, you bring your coat, let's say to a restaurant, or you're going to a party and there's a coat check, you come in with your coat and you give that to the person running the coat check. They take your coat and put it in the closet and give you this little ticket that says 86. So this coat check ticket it's a receipt that represents your coat that you want back before you go out in the cold when you leave the dinner. You can do whatever you want with that ticket. You can walk around with it. You can even maybe come back the next day. But once you give your coat check ticket back, you can get your coat back. This is exactly, a very simplistic example, but this is what liquid staking is. You stake your DOT through Acala, and the Acala protocol stakes your DOT on Polkadot for you. So the DOT itself is still actually going back to the Polkadot relay chain and helping to secure Polkadot. So that's not a concern. And then you get this lDOT token. The lDOT token is your ticket number 86 to get your DOT back whenever you want it back. But as you have that lDOT token, you can do whatever you want with it within DeFi. You maybe even use it to earn additional yield, maybe to mint aUSD, to do several things. So that's kind of one easy way to think about what liquid staking is.
There's the distinction there is with your code receipt. That's kind of, you have to trust the dry cleaning shop, right? Whereas with lDOT in the Web3 world, obviously you kind of look at the protocol and see what it does, because the logic in terms of how to stake onto via XCM to Polkadot and how it actually redeems those DOT back are all written on chain and manage in the protocol, right? So yeah, so that's the part that's bought on chain.
Yep. So I guess going into a little bit more actual technical detail. So this is kind of the flow. So DOT liquid staking on Akala. So first step is unstaking DOT from Polkadot. That takes 28 days, which is kind of a pain. But once you get through it, you'll never have to do that again. Then bring that over to Akala through apps.akala.network. There's a bridge section. And then when you stake on Akala in the staking tab, Betty's going to show you a demo in a second. But when you stake the DOT, like I said, it goes back and actually stakes to Polkadot. Then what happens is the Acala protocol will issue you this lDOT token. And that lDOT token is now yours. It's not locked away. It's not, I mean, it's usable. So what you can do is you can use that to stake on Akala for additional yield. Right now, there's actually aUSD rewards being given out for people to stake their lDOT. Pretty soon, with money markets going live on Akala, on Astar, Moonbeam, and all these other chains, you'll be able to take that lDOT, maybe send it even cross-chain and lend it out on a money market and earn with that. Any other DeFi applications that integrate with aUSD, and even being an LP with that. But the key thing is it provides flexibility. So you can unstake instantly if you want. There's a small fee. You have the option of waiting the full 28 days if you want. And then also the minimum is much, much lower than it is on Polkadot. So the minimum for staking on Akala is 5 DOT. And then if that is even too high for some people, the other option would be to just, you can take the DOT and swap for lDOT if you have less than 5 DOT. So that's kind of the general overview of how liquid staking on Akala works. Do you have anything else to add to that, Betty?
No, that looks good. And yeah, so there's a kind of like a phased approach that we did with LKSM when we launched on Karura. We also have a phased approach for lDOT as well, but the time frame is a lot shorter. Maybe I can show the documentation then, so that people are clear where we are at.
Yep.
So share screen. You can see my screen. Yeah, so we had a kind of like a 3-phase launch for LKSM on Karura. We've done this in the past 10 months, essentially going through different technical upgrades. There used to be, staking caps, and then various different, new features, and also XCM being introduced in between time. And a lot of those we don't need to repeat. So on launch, you can mint lDOT directly, and then it's XCM enabled. So that's quite important because there's many different ways you can actually do your staking. There are staking services that just use a server and also an account to manage that. It may appear automatically, but it's not completely on chain. So we just want to declare that the lDOT and LKSM now is XCM enabled, so it's completely on chain, autonomously staking and unstaking. So when you click the staking button, the code actually goes through XCM and automatically stake on the protocol on the Polkadot network, right? And then you can see we haven't got a lDOT pool yet. So that will be the next thing to happen. So firstly, we build up some initial liquidity for lDOT. That's why there's some incentive there for you guys. And the lDOT pool, there will be a couple of different lDOT pools. Firstly, there will be lDOT to aUSD pool, so that we can build up the liquidity there, and then Ganglet and others. Sorry, this is aUSD, and then Ganglet and others will be assessing the risk and then telling us whether lDOT will become fit as a collateral. Then we'll make the collateral available for lDOT. So you can't actually mint aUSD using lDOT just yet, but it will be once the pool is up. And then the second pool that we will set up is the lDOT and DOT pool. And this time around, it's going to be directly launching on Tapio protocol. So for those of you who don't know, so Tapio is the stable swap and synthetic asset protocol built on Akala. They are from the Nuts finance team, a very seasoned builder, and they've already launched Taiga protocol on Karura. Right now, it's still going through like Bootstrap, LKSM, and KSM, because we already had the LKSM and KSM pool on Karura. So they're doing this kind of like a migration or a friendly vampire attack to move the liquidity across to their DEX. And why, why we're happy about this or why we're supporting this is they've implemented a curve algorithm where when you swap between similar type of asset like lDOT and DOT, and probably others DOT derivative assets, the slippage will be much lower. So it's more efficient to swap there. And then at the same time, they can create a synthetic asset out of it, like called T-Dot. So that T-Dot is actually tracking the DOT prices. So it's almost one-to-one. You can use it as good as DOT assets. And later on, it can also become a collateral. And the point is, in a multi-chain ecosystem, you probably see this already, is when you bridge different similar, like when you bridge the same asset, you get different versions, right? Yeah, I think most people have experienced that, like, aUSDC, BUSDC, you get like 20 different versions of it. And then you get different fragmentation of it. So Taiga and Tapio protocol is exactly trying to resolve that issue, where it can aggregate all type of different DOT derivatives and also different versions of DOT assets and aggregate into one called T-Dot. And then you can use it as good, and it's redeemable back into those underlying assets as well. So it's So as the liquidity build up, then it will become a very good asset in the ecosystem, and probably can also be used as collateral as well. So so that's the phases we are. And then once the lDOT and DOT pool are ready, then the full redemption is available. Right now, the redemption is the normal redemption. So when you unstake, you wait the normal 28 days plus a bit. So the error plus a little bit of time for us to get the DOT token back through XCM from Polkadot. So if you redeem using the normal way, you have to wait the same length as, well, plus a bit of time. Maybe you can just call it like plus 1 day. Similar to when you unstake normally through Polkadot. But then once the pool is ready, then we have a hybrid mechanism for instant redeem. So when you instant redeem, it will actually look at the staking queue. So it may just be able to get you some dots back for matching you with the people who's staking, and also be able to look at liquidity on the market, give you a rate if you're happy about it. Then you can redeem your liquidity. And then there's always going to be some fees be paid for early liquidity. This is important for safety and security, right? Because if you imagine, the reason why Polkadot put 28 days is to exactly prevent bank run, right? If you want to bank run, you still have to give a 28 days notice, basically. So when we do this, the actual DOT on the Polkadot side still actually have to wait for 28 days for it to unstake. So we are not actually bypassing any of those security measures. So the underlying protocol is still keeping the security at the highest level, but whoever willing to provide you that early liquidity, you have to pay an economic kind of like a penalty to get early liquidity. But it seems to be quite popular on the Kusama side, because some people might need get their DOT or KSM back instantly for certain activities that they want to participate in, or for certain reasons. So an open market is always good, I guess, to make it efficient. So that's what we are waiting for. So getting the pools up and getting some liquidity, and then we can have instant redemption get turned on. So I would just say that much before maybe we move to a demo. Or is there anything else that we want to?
I was going to cover unstaking, but you can probably just cover that in the demo.
Oh, okay, sure. So well, first of all, if you've got DOT, you actually need to bridge it to Akala first. So essentially, you bring your DOT on the Polkadot network and then send it to Akala through XCM. So this is fully XCM bridge two-way. So for those of you, appreciate you guys, use the one-way bridge before. You can try bridge some dot back, obviously. So now it's like two-way, right? So we've seen a surge of utilization of XCM bridge in the last couple of days. So so this is what you do. You bridge dot over to Akala. And then you can see by default, we've kind of make the account that you use on Polkadot, right? So this is my account on Polkadot, and the same as the destination account, right? So this is the most, I guess, easy way to bridge that across, right? You use the same account. You can also change it to whatever account that you want, but you got to be careful in terms of the destination account, right? So this is where your DOT will be arriving at on the Akala side. So you have to put in a valid Akala address that you actually control, right? If you want to do those fancy stuff. But by default, this is the easy way. And you just go transfer, and then it will be verified on the Akala side, and then verify on the Polkadot side through XCM, and then your DOT is trustlessly crossed to Akala then. Once you've done that, then it's very easy. You've got some DOT. What is it at right now? So people ask like what these means, right? So first of all, this APY is what you get for staking. So the reward in the 14.5% is DOT. So you're getting those, right? And then this is part of the lDOT, which I will explain how that's actually being accrued, right? So this 14.5% is in DOT. It's what you earned providing the validator, providing a staking to secure the Polkadot network. And then in addition, we have provided an additional reward in aUSD, right? So people also ask why we do this. So there's a number of reasons. One is ACA is actually a fixed supply token. Like we don't print, we don't mint. So every ACA is quite valuable to us. So we are very careful not to throw it out to the market very, very easily. And then also, I guess it is also very timely. In a market like this, we don't want to put all the ACA out there. One is it's very scarce, well, to us. And then secondly, we don't want to flood the market with more of our token. Then you can see the value of having a credit system, right? So then we over-collateralize some of those tokens and then mint aUSD. And then as long as we have enough in the vault, in the collateralization, not only we can pay back the interest rate, but then down the track, we will also be able to pay back the principal as well as we go. So this is where this aUSD reward comes from. And then we also thought this will also be good, mostly for the recipients, like people who's earning the rewards. Because if we were to give out ACA, we will certainly have to put into a very long loyalty program, right? To make it fair and also protect ACA. And then if we do it in aUSD, a stable coin, if it's liquid, it's liquid, right? If you do want to get more ACA, but people have the opportunity to just get the stablecoin and then buy more ACA on the market, right? There's a swap pools there, so you can do whatever you want with the stablecoin that you receive. So we thought that would be kind of like win-win for both sides. So that's the reward part of it. And then for staking, so now you've got your DOT, and then it's very easy. So you just 10 DOT. And then you just stake, right? And you make sure that stake lDOT for reward is turned on. Otherwise, you're only receiving the DOT staking reward. Otherwise, if you turn it on, then you're also getting the aUSD reward as well. It's just simple, one-click stake, and then the DOT will get sent to Polkadot, and then they automatically have selected the validators for you, and over time it rotates the validators for you as well. So you don't need to go through the complicated selecting validators and forgot to keep track of them in between time. So this is what the staking is. And then it's worth mentioning what this means, because when you stake, let's use one to be at least 5, so maybe I'll use 10. This means when I stake 1 DOT, right, you actually get 9.4 lDOT. what does that actually mean? So so first of all, lDOT is a representation of the DOT principle, as well as all the DOT that you will earn from this point on going forward, the staking yield, right? So and then this whole protocol started off, the ratio is 1 to 10. So you can see this number will continue to go down because each lDOT will continue to be able to exchange for more and more DOT, right? So you kind of get that around. So from day one, when this protocol is turned on, 1 DOT can be exchanged for 10 lDOT, right? So, but lDOT is continually accruing DOT staking reward. So which means 1 lDOT will continuously be able to swap for, well, not swap, but exchange for more and more DOT over time. So this is like 94 now, so 9.4 now, right? It used to be like 10 DOT can be swapped for 100, but now it's 94. Continue to drop this ratio as lDOT can accrue more DOT rewards. So yeah, and then it will probably drop further as more staking reward is accrued to your account. And then for, you know, as a user, then then you can actually look at this chart to actually see, I guess, how much DOT you've staked, and then how much you are earning in terms of the DOT staking yield. This doesn't take into account of the extra reward that you get. This is just purely the staking reward that you will be receiving, right? And then so this lDOT is essentially a representation of how your share of the entire liquid staking pool. Like if the pool has, say, 1,000 DOT in it, how much we get into? Oh, 2.8 million. So let's say we have 3 million DOT in this staking pool, and then you have 10% of it. Then you're actually getting 10% of the DOT principal as well as whatever staking yield that you earn, right? So it's just a representation of your share of the staking pool. And then this will take into effect when you do unstake, right? So let's not do unstake instantly. So when you unstake, let's say if I do 10, and when you unstake, then you can see, so if you don't unstake instantly, this actually goes through XCM. Right, so it just sends a message to Polkadot to say, I want to unstake my DOT, and then Polkadot will go, yep, here you are. You have to wait 28 days. Right? So this is the normal unstake. So that's why they mention, if you want to the normal unstaking, you don't go to swap. You just like unstake here, and you wait 28 days, and this will work exactly with the exchange rate that you have, because this actually includes the DOT that you put in, and also the extra staking yield that's part of the period that you've earned it, right? So if you put in the if you staked from last era, then obviously you'll be earning 1 era's staking reward, right? As it's calculated through how much you've put into the pool. So that's the normal unstake, right? So this is available now. And you can certainly use it to do unstaking. And then when the instant unstaking is on, then it will not only try to match the available DOT being staked, right? But it will also go onto the pools to source some liquidity there, and then provide you a rate, right, to see if you are happy with it, and then do the matching there. So yeah, so that's roughly what it is. Anything else that I forgot to cover?
No, I think that's just so when you're on this tab, you've got stake and unstake at the top. So that's the key thing to remember. Staking is done on this tab, obviously, but then when you're ready to go back to DOT, you just click on the unstake tab up there, and you can either unstake the regular way, waiting 28 days, or you can unstake instantly, which I think in this case it said like 0.1 lDOT was the fee. There's been a lot of people asking about like the lDOT to DOT ratio on the DEX. So just to be clear, when you're unstaking, you don't go to the swap tab and swap. You go to
there's no lDOT to DOT just yet. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like the Tapio is gonna put up a pool there. So yeah, that just gives you another way to actually swap the lDOT back to DOT. But that's not the only way. So you could just wait for the unstaking to happen.
Yep.
Yeah, and then another thing is people ask about risk, right? So the liquid staking obviously have similar risk profile as you directly staking through Polkadot, the Polkadot app website, right? So direct staking versus lDOT. So it has similar risk profile, a single side staking, and then the risk that you are exposed to are slashing risk, which you are also exposed to if you stake directly. And that's why I guess selecting validators are quite important. Validator selection. So yeah, so if you're doing it yourself, right? If you don't want to do lDOT, you just want to do direct, and then and not do anything else, you should still follow this, right? As best practice is like, what do they have an on-chain identity, no slash history, validator history, like how long they've been running validator for Polkadot and Kusama, commission rate, whether, well, all of these you can see on chain, right? These are on chain figures. And then for lDOT, LKSM, we're doing something extra is slash coverage. I mentioned institution providers. We can usually get them to do that. Coinbase, Block Daemon, they can do that. And then also we prefer dedicated validators, so that dedicated means that particular validator is only validating for the lDOT and also LKSM pool. That's good because it kind of optimized for us for the return. One thing, and the second is a lot better for us to easily track their performance, and also if they're dedicated to us, then I think it's a lot better service than they are also open for other services. So those are the things we look at, and I think another additional criteria that we are looking at is adding having also consider community validators, because if you only kind of like, if the algorithm only takes care of these top line criteria, a lot of the community validators is going to miss out, right? Because if you look at the Polkadot validator list, you will see repeating names, right? They're like commercial, validators, right? And yeah, and then so that if you don't have some community validators participate, then I think it's a good way to involve them, and then help the decentralization of the staking service. Because the last thing you want is so that having the commercial validators control this protocol, because the lDOT is supposed to be democratizing a professional, maybe even institution validator service, so that everybody, like even I just have $5, I can access those services. Because a lot of these like slash coverage, really competitive rates, and really high quality service level, usually like whales will get access to this, right? And they negotiate a rate because they have lots of DOT that they can put into their dedicated server they rent from some professional validators, right? But essentially what we are trying to go for, I don't think we are, I think we're on the path getting there, like getting the validator set. And then we're essentially democratizing that, so that individual, starting with $5, you can participate in this and enjoying all of this stuff, right? And then the risk there is if any of this validator gets slashed, right? We're still exposed. Everybody is exposed. So if validators is slashed, then obviously there's a calculation that Polkadot provides, like how much downtime you have, and then what is the sort of the maximum that you could get punished, and whether it's your own fault or not. Because in history, Polkadot has reimbursed some validator if it's protocol fault. Like that's all Polkadot side to handle those type of I guess incidents. And then however, if it's the fault of the validator, then they will get slashed, right? And then that slash is actually means some DOT will get kind of like like taken away from the validator, and then that punishment is absorbed across the staking pool that we have. So everybody takes a little bit of hit if some validator is slashed. That's why these criteria is like no slash history, validator history is actually very important. And not just looking at the commission rate, right? So some folks offer really good really low commission rate, even zero. But if they every now and then they just get slashed, you probably still don't want to go to them because you might get hurt there. So those are the risks that we have, and obviously you will also have protocol risk. Like XAM is the key component in here. You do get protocol risk, but that's no different. Like if you're validating on Polkadot itself is also protocols. There's protocol risk that you will consider there. And then other than that, staking, I guess, is probably an entry product that almost everyone in crypto can participate simply and easily. And of course, where you go beyond here, right? Once you've got your lDOT, then this is where you can. Well, if you already know your stuff, then you can very easily navigate around the ecosystem. So for lDOT, later on, you can mint aUSD, and then there will be stablecoin pool come up, and you can put it into the stablecoin pool and park it there. Or you could, provide liquidity into various pools as LP for lDOT as well. And then there will be protocols integrate with lDOT for lending, borrowing, and other aspects of using the DOT derivative. And you can participate in any of those. Or if you don't, then if you sit on lDOT, that's as good as staking, providing you with a liquidity option, right? If you do want to exit, at least you've got options of, exit the normal way, wait for 28 days, or exit instantly to get early liquidity. So a lot of people, I think, they come in and then they park their asset in lDOT. If this is a period of time you don't want to participate in anything, you just want to sit there and watch, you can do this. And then when there's things happening that interest you, you can easily then get the lDOT and participate in other programs. And lDOT will not only just be in the Acala platform, it might go across parachains and integrate with other protocols. So we are still very early, as you can see. We just turned on lDOT, right? This is pretty much marks, I guess, in one way, completion of Polkadot launch for Polkadot 1.0, and also marks the completion of Akala launch for Akala 1.0, right? These are the three protocols that we have, the stablecoin, the lDOT, and also the swap. But launching is one thing, but actually gradually grow this protocol and also go through times of up and down. So it's like battle tested, and then also kind of like bootstrap, so that we integrate into as many protocols and increase the utilization of all of these products is another thing, right? So so you guys are super early in terms of our journey. So there's a long way to go for us to go from this point to support the whole Polkadot ecosystem with aUSD and products like lDOT to kind of gradually grow an economy of Web3, right? So I'll stop there. Sorry.
Cool. I think we can answer a couple questions. One of the questions that keeps popping up is around lDOT. So we've talked about lDOT, and these are one letter off between lDOT and lDOT. So maybe a good time to remind people about like what lDOT is, and then the question, the top voted question is about lDOT. So they want to swap lDOT to DOT and stake, but they're wondering about the risk associated with swapping lDOT for DOT. So as a quick reminder, lDOT is going back to the code check receipt or code check example, lDOT is your receipt for your crowd loan DOT that you contributed to the crowd loan. So if you swap your DOT or your lDOT away for DOT, you're giving up your receipt to your DOT that you contributed to the crowd loan. So after 2 years, when this parachain slot expires, all that DOT will automatically be returned to people. For those who have lDOT, they'll need to redeem their lDOT for the DOT. If you've if you've traded away your lDOT, you will no longer have that receipt to get your DOT back. So just keep that in mind. That is the risk, is that you're giving up your receipt for your DOT that you contributed to the crowd loan. So
if you sell it,
yeah, if you sell it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can just hold it, and you'll have it, or you can get lDOT back in order to swap back into DOT.
And while we provide this lDOT option, this is actually coming from the community demand. I remember in our presentation for crowd loan, and then the people asking, the crowd loan is for 2 years. It's a long time in crypto. Say how much have happened in the last I guess 2 days, right? So and then normally when you participate in crowd loan, you just lock your DOT into Polkadot. And then that money is kind of like gone for the 2 years at least, right? And then only at the end of the 2-year lease, you get your DOT back. This is your normal participation, right? So by participating in Akala through lDOT, if you just hold on to the lDOT, right? If you just hold on to it and do nothing, just put it in your wallet and do nothing, it's the same effect as you participate directly, right? So in 2 years' time, your lDOT will get automatically turned back into DOT after Akala's lease ends, right? So this is what the receipt means when Dan used the analogy. So if you just hold on to the lDOT receipt, then in 2 years' time, you get your DOT back, right? Same as you directly participate. But of course, now the receipt is a token, right? Then it's up to you what your needs are, what you need to do, right? So obviously, for people who hold on to the lDOT, I've seen many different type of users wanting different things. So you have to figure out what you want to do. So they provide liquidity into this lDOT and DOT pool. A lot of them are really long-term DOT holders. So to them, lDOT is just a discounted DOT, right? So if you buy lDOT at this rate, then you're essentially getting a discount on your DOT because they are one-to-one DOT if you hold on to it after Akala's lease end, right? So there are people move their DOT to here, and then they use different ways. They could use aUSD, probably purchase lDOT, and then get a discounted DOT, and then kind of just hold on to it. And then obviously you can provide liquidity into this pool, and then you earn extra reward, right? So if you are LPing, for DOT and lDOT, in a way, there is implemented loss, obviously, but then on either side, you're getting DOT back ultimately, and then you're getting some additional APRs as well by providing liquidity, right? So this is one type of things that you can consider doing, but just mind your risk. We've got documentation on the LP risk and things like that. Just read onto it. And then at the same time, lDOT is actually quite good quality collaterals because it is guaranteed redeemable to DOT in 2 years' time, right? You essentially have like very little risk for it to go to zero, unless DOT go to zero, which everything we do here is kind of like meaningless if that's the case. But otherwise, lDOT is actually considered a very high quality collateral. So you can use your lDOT to mint a stablecoin if you need those liquidity to do something else. And so and then or you can just like do this LP like aUSD and lDOT LP. So lDOT you can mint aUSD, and you can do other stuff. And also the aUSD is actually listed on KuCoin, right? So you could there's an arbitrage opportunity there because aUSD is very small. So we are very early, right? The model that we chose, over-collateralization, you're not going to get instant success overnight because all of the stuff has to build up. Like it took Maker 6 years to actually get to half the size, or maybe 1/3 of the size where it is today. It took them 6 years since their launch, right? Because for a very safe model, you accumulate real utility. That this is just well, I guess the compromise or the choices you make. Like the model we chose, you're not gonna have this like a reflexive effect, right? On lots of minting of aUSD and lots of activities. This will be a gradual process, so that that kind of build up, and at the beginning when aUSD is very small, if you look at the back in the days when DAI is very small, you always see it actually goes up and down. Up and down for the $1 pegging sort of benchmark it has. When the market size is very small, it always trades up and down. It depends on where the demand and supply is for aUSD or for DAI equivalently. And that's why more trading venues that we have, it actually creates arbitrage opportunity for people to trade. And also saw comments, people asking the risk of shorting and people doing this market activity. Yeah, sure, you can do that, but you can see when you mint aUSD, it didn't get mint out of thin air, right? It's actually, you have a cost to mint aUSD. Every aUSD is probably behind it is every 100 aUSD is probably 200 dots behind the scene. You have to put up that cost to be able to kind of like mint aUSD and also participate in a market event like that, right? So this is very different. Well, this is why I guess over-collateralization type of stablecoin may bootstrap kind of like less dramatically, takes a long time to bootstrap, but also at the same time, it's has a lesser exposure to very significant manipulation, right? You do see it go up and down a little bit, but it's not going to go free fall because of the model it is. That's the difference, right? Every, I guess, real decentralized stablecoin, even fiat-backed, they actually go off-peg, depends on demand. If you see a lot of people buying USDC on the market or USDT, well, this happened to USDT. When a lot of people buying it in China and Asia, it actually goes off-peg above $1 for quite a long time, right? And it will also go off-peg below $1 when there's more selling, right? And if the trust broke for USDT, of course, it's going to go free fall. But then for over-collateralization stablecoin, you will go off-peg because of supply and demand differences, but you will not go into a free fall because of how it's built. Like algorithmic, why a lot of debate about the mechanism being very risky, and it's mostly because when it goes into free fall, there's nowhere to stop it, right? Whereas for over-collateralization mechanism, when it goes to off-peg, the liquidation ratio is where the fall will kind of like stop. Right, it kind of stops free fall. There's a floor protection there for over collateralization, but you will see it trade off peg mostly because one, it's very small, very early stage, and then second is there's not enough arbitrage community around. So we're doing a couple of things. One, we have folks building. I already saw some arbitrage bots have happened. I suspect they are. And then there's actually teams building some arbitrage programs that they can do, trading between different pools. You see right now there's only, 2 aUSD pools here. So it's, not much trading venues. And then when we link up Karura, then there's more aUSD trading venues. And then there's exchange trading venue, so you can do arbitrage there, right? And that's a good thing for aUSD along the way. So people can trade between different exchanges and then be able to, I guess, from their perspective, make money out of it. But from our perspective, in a way, they're making the market a bit more efficient. So so hopefully that actually makes sense and clears some mud out.
Cool. I think we're going to have to wrap up. We have one more question from Talisman about when the DOT and KSM bridge for aUSD will be going live. That will be Wormhole. So Wormhole is going live on Karura first, and then we'll be going live on Akala very soon after that. And then Wormhole will actually be bridging Akala and Karura. So aUSD will be able to flow to and from Polkadot and Kusama and be fungible, basically the same type of aUSD on both chains, so no need to worry about bridging in different variations of aUSD. Other than that, I think we covered a lot of these questions around current things that are happening in stablecoin world, lDOT, and a lot of other things. So thanks everybody for the attention and joining us. It was good to see everybody here, and glad we got to have a conversation about everything going on in the world right now. So have a good day or good night wherever you are, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, everyone.